All right, we're back up and running. So the United States is large enough to influence the world interest rate. So more funds the U.S. lends abroad, the lower the world interest rate will be, because we have that much financial power. And the more the United States will borrow from abroad, the higher the world interest rate will be. So if we start borrowing a lot of money, the world interest rate is going to go up. Also, capital is not perfectly mobile, so investors may prefer to hold their capital domestically as opposed to internationally. And this is especially true if we're talking about investing in countries that have unstable governments. So information regarding international assets may be imperfect, so maybe you don't trust that information. And the large open economy model can sometimes apply to a small open economy because of this. And also because of this, we now have capital flows is now slanted down. All right, and then we get our model. All right, so the market for loanable funds. So an open economy savings is to finance domestic investment and to finance their net capital outflows. So savings equals investment plus capital flows. National savings is fixed by the level of something, and fiscal policy and the consumption function. Investment and capital flows depend on the real interest rate. So S bar, again, savings is fixed. Investment depends on the interest rate, and capital flows depend on the interest rate. So the supply of loanable funds here is national savings, and the demand for national savings is the sum of the demand for domestic investment and foreign investment, which is our net capital outflows. So the market for foreign exchange is net exports equals savings minus investment. And since NX is a function of the real exchange rate and capital flows equals savings minus investment, we can rewrite this as the net exports, depending on our real exchange rate, equals the capital flows. And the real exchange rate is the rate that equilibrated the trade balance and the net capital outflows. And then again, we have our nominal trade rate, our exchange rate. The exchange rate is E star with P star divided by P, and it's the ratio of those price levels, again, with the two different countries. The next slide should be a bunch of graphs. Yes, okay. So, market for loanable funds. This is the market that we've talked about already. We have loanable funds, so savings equals investment plus capital flows. So from there, wherever those balance, that's where we're going to get our interest rate. We bring that interest rate over to our net capital outflows model, and wherever we get there, because this net capital outflow or net capital flows is dependent on our interest rate, so that will determine the quantity. And then we drop down. This is how it's set up, so we can do it without numbers. It's much more convenient this way, I guess. So we go over to this function, wherever it meets the function, that's where we drop down. This is our capital flows, this new number. So we take our capital flows from here, we apply it to the market for foreign exchange, and from there, that's how we can determine our real exchange rate, because that now has to meet with our net exports dependent on the real exchange rate function. This model will definitely pop up again, which I know is all great to hear. Mostly in chapter 13, but possibly before that. No, the next chapter is, did we skip 7? No, 7's also really important. All right, so fiscal policies at home. Now we're going to take this model, we're going to apply it. So consider an expansionary government policy. So we increase in spending or we decrease taxes. We already said that leads to a decrease in national savings. So savings was here, savings now goes to here, R increases. So if R increases here, we come over to our net capital outflows, and now capital flows have decreased. They've shifted to the left with our new higher interest rate. We bring this down to this model. Notice NX and CF, those haven't changed. We just move along those lines. And from there, we get our new exchange rate. So this leads to a decrease in the supply of loanable funds, as I said, and this reduces domestic investment and the next net capital outflows, which reduces the supply of dollars to be exchanged, causing an appreciation of the dollar, and therefore net exports will fall. Similarly, as in a closed economy, a fiscal expansion raises the interest rate and crowds out investment. We've already seen examples like this. All right. I know you guys are all starting to fade. I need you to bear with me for like 10 more minutes max, I think, I hope. But we're getting there. So here we're going to talk about an increase in investment leads to an increase in the interest rate, reducing our net exports and leading to an appreciation of a currency. Again, it's a similar scenario. I can't look at this, that's too big. So our savings, our investment and our capital flows have now increased. Again, we have that same thing, our interest rate rose. Because our interest rate rose, our net exports shifted to the left and our real exchange rate went up. It's the same idea. Either if savings shifts to the left or investment and capital flows shift to the right, we're going to see an increase in the interest rate. All right, here we have a quota. So this is a quota scenario. So a quota on imports raises the demand for net imports, and therefore it raises the exchange rates. And if we raise the exchange rates, are people going to want to buy our goods? That's not on the graph. That's just a question I have for you guys. If our exchange rate goes up, do people want to buy our goods? No. And we see that we have this shift. Protectionist policy raise the demand for exports because we can't import. Wait, what? Hold on. Let's start at the beginning. So we have this model. Everything is in balance, but now all of a sudden we've shifted our function. We now have this quota in place. And once we have that quota, the exchange rate increases. And it leads to our net exports. They're unchanged. They haven't changed, but now our exchange rate has actually gone up. So our goods are less desirable. Not less desirable because they're unchanged, but the balance is unchanged. All right. And then shift in net capital outflows. So fiscal policy abroad may reduce American desire to invest if the interest rate decreases in the respective country and encourages investment in the United States. So investment plus capital flows shifts to the left, which decreases our interest rate. But also what happens is our net capital flows in this scenario is the thing that changed, so they all shift to the left. But so we have a shift. And then we kind of have like this weird movement. It's not a movement because we're not on the same line, but the interest rate has dropped. So capital flow shifts to the left, and now we're actually also at R2. We bring R2 down, and again, we see our exchange rate has gone up. This is what our exchange rate would have been if our capital flows was unchanged. But because they changed, we now have another appreciation in our currency. You can take all these scenarios and kind of go in the other direction and say that, all right, well, it'll lead to a depreciation of our currency or it won't change the value of our currency. But those are the three important examples. All right, and that's when we get to the assignment for next week. So it's question 3 and 10 in the textbook. So this country, it's some fake made-up country, has a small open economy. Suddenly a change in the world fashion market makes the exports of leverette unpopular. From there you have to answer those scenarios. 10, definitely do the math. It says, you know, write your answer using a concrete example. Concrete example means show me numbers.
Pages.
I don't know what page it is. It's just like, it's at the end of chapter 6. But so that's the assignment for next week. If you have any questions on those assignments, you can go ahead and ask. But I know you can't read most of my handwriting, which I don't know, is probably a good, bad thing. But if you have any questions, I'll still be here. Next week is going to be chapter 7. I'll send it to you before class at least. So that's kind of it. Does anyone have any questions on anything? All right, free to go.